Hey, I'm Wes, the Explosion, and this is the Backlog, a series where I used to talk about whatever games I happen to play during the week. That's now regulated to once a year to still do that, but also just kinda be a recap and chance to set some New Year's resolutions. Last year was the first time I did this, making it pretty easy because all I needed to do was come up with goals, but this time, I need to actually take account of which of these I did and did not complete. So the pressure's on. So how did I do? Did I crush it, or am I flaky and unreliable? Guess we'll see later, but starting off, let's talk about what I actually played. Not sure if this was a year with a lot of big releases. I mostly stick with Switch, so my view is a little limited, but the Game Awards nominated a DLC expansion and a massive RPG that I doubt anyone had time to play as late as it came out. So I get the feeling that I wasn't the only one to feel this way. Luckily, I've been keeping a list, making it easy to remember what came out, no need to question whether it was this year or not. The big thing is, though, what was my game of the year? Well, I'll give you my top 3, starting with Berserk Boy, an indie game where you're able to constantly swap forms using Berserk Orbs that you steal from bosses. There's a lot of Mega Man ZX in this one, yet I'd say Berserk Boy is a lot more physical in their attacks, with the focus on combos, there being lines of enemies for you to leapfrog over gaps with, and waves of baddies that you want to lay out as quickly as possible. I have a lot more to say on it, but I also have a full review if you're interested. Second for me is Sonic X Shadow Generations. I already really liked the base game, so that again, but updated with extra collectibles and the like, was great, though the Shadow campaign was what really got me. They threw in enough new mechanics to differentiate it, the levels and boss battles were incredible, and it saw me actually liking and sympathizing with a character that I always kinda thought was overrated. I really kinda want to go back and 100% it at some point. It's just that good. And my game of the year? Virtual Unlimited Project, which was pretty much just Mega Man Zero but with pretty anime girls. One of the people who developed it was also behind the ZX prequel, and the whole thing felt very authentic. The combat was pretty spot on, there were elements from not just Zero but also X, Gunvolt, and a few others. It was incredibly fun. And the characters had enough personality that I felt invested, perhaps because they were based off of VTubers, though ones I was unfamiliar with, so I'm not sure how closely they matched up. There were multiple difficulty options as well, opening it up to a much larger audience and eliminating one of the main complaints with the Zero series. Now, I did back this on Kickstarter just in case anyone thinks that might affect my opinion, though unlike some other ones that I've questioned, I had no regrets for supporting this one. I played through the demo a few times and immediately beat the game twice when it came out, I was that into it. And I really regret not doing a full review, though there is still time. If you're a fan of the Zero games, or wish you were but you just can't keep up with the difficulty, this is a must play. So yeah, the big drops for me this year were platformers and ones largely inspired by titles I already liked. Maybe I'm living in the past too much, but hey, I had a fantastic time with each. As for my more general playlist, there's over 50 on that. Did confuse the issue a bit since not all of them were on the backlog, so there's some replays. I didn't include the Mega Man stuff that I wind up revisiting pretty often, but I did put down the Game Boy titles since I've only played each of them once or twice. Also had a lot of Sonic on the list since, oddly enough, while I like the platformers, I've only ever played 3 and Knuckles of the Genesis titles, so it was a treat to mess around with the Origins collection as much as I did this year. And I also finished the Advanced trilogy, though I can only say that I liked the first one. I played a lot of Game Boy titles, mostly due to them adding stuff to Nintendo Switch Online, messed around a good bit with Star Fox, as I tried to determine whether I liked the series or just 64, jury's still out on that one, and replayed the Donkey Kong Country SNES trilogy, which were a big part of my childhood, so I'm always glad to come back to. Also managed to get the N64 hooked up to the game capture and was excited to stream Banjo-Kazooie, though I'm a little less clear on the love for Mischief Makers. I plan to continue to utilize the system going into next year. I managed to clear some pretty chunky visual novels on the list, really enjoying Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, the DLC case perhaps being my favorite in the series, and Danganronpa V3 really killing a lot of my enthusiasm for the series. But at least it's done. As for indie stuff, I really don't like the first Gunvolt game, but the sequel and Luminous Avenger titles are really fun, so I'm finally starting to get into the series. Pizza Tower was pretty dope. As fast-paced as it was, I was kinda worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up, but it was pretty easy to learn, or at least stumble my way through. I looked into the Spark the Electric Jester games because the third one was recommended to me, and while I did mostly enjoy the first entry, 2 and 3 kinda broke me, though not enough to scare me off from taking recommendations. And I played a few others that take inspiration from Mega Man like Gravity Circuit and Super Alloy Ranger. While I definitely prefer the former to the latter, both were still fun and I wouldn't mind talking more in depth about them sometime down the line. But yeah, not a bad bit of stuff cleared, those were just some of the highlights. But what has special significance is the screw it category. There's plenty of times where I'm not having fun with a game and maybe even absolutely hate it, but will still force myself through to the credits anyway because of some sense of pride, or because of sunk cost fallacy. Either the time I've already put into it, or literal cost, the price I paid. Mario vs. Donkey Kong didn't grab me like the Game Boy Donkey Kong it took inspiration from, and the two Mighty games were DS titles that relied pretty heavily on console gimmicks, and while I won't say they were bad, it's rare for me to get into titles that have weird control schemes. And I probably shouldn't need to explain for Enchanted Portals. It pulls pretty heavily from Cuphead for inspiration, yet manages to miss the damn point. Semi-randomized repetitive levels, boring boss fights, movements that don't feel right, weird hitboxes, and just in general, being no fun at all. Seriously, how are you gonna copy the A student's homework and still manage to fail? Anyway, sum up my failures however you want. I think just ditching more games that I'm not getting anything out of is important and something I should do more often. I say that, but I'm currently working my way through Metroid Prime 2. But here's where we get to the goals I set last year, which I've been kinda dreading. For channel goals, I wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers, which we hit about halfway through the year. Here are some other stats which are neat. Thanks for all the support this year. In a similar vein, I wanted to put out a video that wasn't necessarily the most popular on my channel overall, but at least got the most views this year, and damn it, it was ranking the X Games again. I did put out some stuff that did really well, or I was at least pretty proud of, so this was kinda disappointing when I got the summary from YouTube. I was also questioning whether I should keep on doing clips on this channel or move them elsewhere, since they seem not to do as well as my scripted stuff. I wound up making a new streaming channel, which is where I post those and also do all my streaming, since the Victory Tricksters, where I was doing so before, was originally started to play games with my brother, and it turned into pretty much only me all the time. So a more me-focused location made sense. Of course, things are still pretty new over there, so I didn't have the confidence to do my 24-hour extra live stream and skip that goal. I also wanted to do more poems, a review format focused more on indie games, and I did do 2, but the views weren't quite what I was hoping for, so I didn't go too hard on that. There are a few titles that I still want to talk about though, so I'll probably give it another go, but I won't put it on my resolutions for this year. And I'm also giving myself a pass on this one, since I did try. I also talked about getting an avatar or using a webcam, and I decided to just do the former. Well, kind of. I did take some real footage on a few of my videos that required props, but I'm 36 and I'm waiting for aging to hit me like a truck, so I think for my vanity's sake, I'd rather just have a cartoon or anime face. And of course I still need to do that, but I do have some ideas and making a decision is a good first step. I wanted to start making shorts and yeah, I did. How to get it to work in my video editor was a lot easier than I thought, which is kind of embarrassing. And it was a little late in the year, but hey, a win's a win. As for more personal stuff, I wanted to exercise, and I did do some, but I'm not sure I'd say it's as much as I wanted to, so I'm calling that a wash. I finally cleared Mega Man Legends 2, which has been on my list for a while, and that was huge for me. But I didn't get around to Mega Man and Bass. Or maybe I just didn't want to. And I wanted to get my backlog down to 120 games or less. According to the last video, I had 21 books on the list, which is now currently at 14, though I have 7 books that are more reference text, so depending on whether I was counting them, I either really pared it down or broke even. I read plenty though, so I can't get mad there. As for games though, well apparently I was at 160 and I'm currently at 156, which is less, but far off from my goal. Ouch. So why don't we start there? Let's set some new resolutions, including either recycling unmet targets and expanding on the ones I did. Get the backlog down to 120 or less. Given how much time I spend making videos and streaming, I think if I try to include some of these into those, it might be a bit more attainable. I'd also like to knock one console off the list, and GameCube is looking to be the most doable there. I'm already partially through Metroid Prime 2, and it looks like the Sonic Gems collection isn't going to require as much work as I thought it would. And hey, since we hit 1,000 subscribers, why not go for 2,000 this year? I want to make better use of shorts since so far I've been mostly throwing stuff at the wall, and I'll probably still do that, but I can also use them more for advertising, like the ones I did on the Wily capsule and Ring EXE that then linked into the full videos on them. I also need to get better at advertising myself in general. I typically don't want to bother or impose on people, but I don't think my stuff is terrible, so if I just believe that my videos are worth watching, maybe I can stand to put myself out there a bit more. Should at least start a Blue Sky account and post more on there and Twitter. I'm not calling it the other thing. I think an avatar would also help, so I gotta work on that, and a channel logo would probably also be good. As for a more popular video, a look at my most viewed shows that it's primarily my ones that rank all the games in a series, so that gives me a few ideas. One of which I did originally mean to do this year. I also have my top 20 games list that I still need to put out since we reached 1,000. I swear I didn't forget, it's just kind of hard to work on that while still putting out something else every week. Been doing every Sunday for years with only a few oddballs like this, and the week I focused on shorts being the only exceptions. I really need to get better at time management and maybe take a few breaks, but that's just a general life goal. I should also figure out the direction I want to take things, since I think I got a little cocky after 1,000 subs and started posting more just retro stuff in general, some of which did well, some of which did not. I should probably try to go back to mostly Mega Man and wider topics that can be linked to Mega Man. Though hey, sometimes I also use the retro reviews to give myself more breathing room, since putting together something on a game I can beat in a half hour or so isn't too hard. Though speaking of, I still have some review series that I want to wrap up, like Battle Network and the Rockman World games. I might also start to slowly delete some of my older videos since they are pretty terrible. Which might seem like a ploy to get some attention on them, but no, they are pretty terrible. There's some that are just still images that I talk over without even a BGM. I know some people would say just keep them or make them private since watch time is watch time, but seriously, what's 5 views here, 6 there? As for playing stuff, I still need to tackle Mega Man and Bass. I also want to set up a way to record DS games so that I can replay Star Force. A lot of videos I have planned, but not having gameplay or remembering specifics on those is kinda holding things up. And on my new streaming channel, Wish Upon a Playthrough, link in the description, any support is appreciated, I'd like to get to 100 subscribers there and break 10 concurrent viewers. Previous best is 9, don't make fun of me. Maybe I'll do that extra life 24-hour stream if we reach those. If I could, I'd like to get my living decks in Pokemon Home down to less than 100 missing. I'm at about 200 now, but given that a fourth of them are just alchemy, it might not be too bad. Also, completing the national decks would be nice, but I have no idea where I could get a Zarude or Regidrago. And of course, I want to exercise more, because I need at least one basic bitch resolution. So out of 12 resolutions from last year, I accomplished half of them, failed 5, and am not giving myself a judgment on 1. And we're setting a whole 20 for this year, though some are a little open to interpretation, like how much do I need to show my stuff for the advertising one to count. Also went over some notable stuff I played this year. Please let me talk about Virtua Unlimited Project more, and even if I didn't meet some of my targets, I'd still say it was a pretty productive year. So what did you think? Did I do a good job? Did you do a good job with your own objectives? Am I being too ambitious? Do you have any suggestions? And what was your favorite, or favorites, game this year? That'll do it, so thanks for watching, and thanks for all the support this year. I hope you had a good one too. And if you're watching this and not subscribed, maybe consider doing that. More Mega Man, retro stuff, and general gaming topics ahead. In the year 20XX.